Recording in progress. I've turned the prompt off, but
We're good.
Good go.
I am bringing this budget workshop, April 3rd, to order. Because it's not a regular town council meeting. Yeah. It's not because it's not a regular meeting. We don't have the formality of roll call and all the other preamble. I'm going to turn it right over to the manager. I'll just remind that this there is no public comment during workshop session. But hopefully we'll have some questions or comments from counselors. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as an overview, before we dive into the rest, the only updates since or stemming from workshop 2 last week is the dog constable department. At the request of the council, that has been increased around a base stipend amount of 15,000. That increased the overall department because of the payroll related lines by an amount of $4,074. The expenses in this graph are now $8,212,257. The revenues in this draft remain at $5,428,916. That change has adjusted our taxation total by $4,074. It is now a total of $2,783,411, which creates an overall decrease in it's still a decrease in taxation from FY25 to FY26 of $6,258. Any questions on that?
Thank you.
So this evening, the plan is to finish up our general fund expenses. We're going to go police, library, recreation, automobile, ATV, capital improvements. Then we're going to jump backwards a little bit and go over the other larger department, fire and ambulance. And then we will wrap things up with an overview of our revenues. Provided all goes well and we have no need for additional workshop, we will plan to move forward with advertising for our 2 special hearings to take place. First one on the April 17th and the second hearing and adoption on April 24th. Side note, a reminder that the school department will join us at next week's regular council meeting to give their informal budget presentation to the council. And then the expectation is to have them back for their required public hearing same night as the 2nd, 24th. And provided that goes well, we plan to have the related adoption orders for all of the pieces of those budgets that same night. So moving into the remaining general fund expense department. First up, we're going to do page 16, department 0201. That is the police. And because we're locked in a 5-year contract, there are no changes. This department stays flat at I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Too
you were
far.
high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apologize to everyone. I'm gonna zoom out of that a little bit. I can see better. Page 16, police department. Our contracted cost for service is $848,874. We will move on.
Ye- Yeah, there's a correction on that page. You saw where the, across from, is it health officer or the top $848,000?
Oh, it's on the wrong line.
Yeah,
It's on the
this
wrong
is-
line. Yeah,
This
we
is,
knew that.
this is the original document
Yeah,
from
just needs to be moved down.
before we started this. The value is the same. It has been updated in
Very
the
good,
computer
yeah.
system.
So.
I think I owe somebody, Duncan, Tammy.
The
no,
Easter egg.
The Easter egg that was hidden in the budget.
Yeah,
It's good to know that counselors are
we are
really
paying
doing
attention.
this stuff. It's
We are.
a little under impressive that only one of seven
Oh.
found it.
He was just the first one.
She was the first.
The first to stay.
That's right.
No,
We all found it.
So when you're entering in trio, you don't see headings, you just see like 0115 and 1115. It's just
Yeah, the line.
10 million account.
Easy to do.
That's right.
however, I'm sure that Tom would appreciate
That's right, a little bump, right?
Tom's stipend, 850. So
Yeah.
anywho,
Yeah.
next up for us is page 37, department 0501. That is the library. That funding is staying flat this year of the recommendation at 150,000. Any questions on that?
I don't see anybody. I can't see Louis. You could pay attention to that.
Oh,
Otherwise-
geez, I'm not screen
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Don't worry, you'll hear from me.
Oh, well, I see Sandy had it in the chat too, and because I wasn't screen sharing, I didn't even see the chat. Okay, you can see now? Okay, good. So yes, library budget is recommended as staying flat at 150,000. Any questions there?
Yeah. Is, are you meeting with them on, our discussion that we previously had?
That is a council discussion to have, so no. No, I'm not. I have discussed, I've had a conversation with the library director recently. Council needs to reconvene. That's that.
Oh, Councilor Brandon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually spoke with a board member today, so I'll speak individually offline.
Very good. Yeah,
Moving on.
yeah, thank you.
That will be page 48, department 1002, recreation. This budget, Cody actually had a really good pass at this. We really put some thought and some effort into it. He did really well with trimming some unnecessary senses in here. The The biggest impact really is that hospital insurance line that we've discussed, several other times in different departments. So all that being said, the total increase on that department is $15,018 for a total department budget, $223,004.
Can you mute whatever's in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Counselor Dumeay, question?
Thank you. Question for line items 2033 and 2050. I've noticed that they're all zero amount until this year. Is there a reason why there's a need for maintenance repairs and then vehicle maintenance when there hasn't been in the past?
Yeah, there is a need for that sort of thing. And in the past, they had used other lines to accommodate for those needs. We wanted to give it its own space to be able to track it. Fortunately, with the work that's needed and expected to come along the way, having the maintenance director that we have and his set to be able to perform a lot of that work.
Can you tell me where it's been typically pulled from historically, other than creating these lines?
The other, facility maintenance lines. I'm not entirely sure where those transactions had taken place over the years.
Mr. Manager, I can.
Sure, go ahead.
Second. Yeah, primarily, let's say like the pool maintenance line, that's been essentially used as a reserve towards the end of the year as we get towards June 30th for any of those expenses. Now, we've had to do that in some cases, not necessarily related to general maintenance or vehicle maintenance, but like Evan's CPO class, I took out of pool maintenance. We have a training line, but it was like $200 or $300. And there are some other remedial trainings that, $40 trainings like MMA stuff that, we can pull from that and such. But some are bigger expenses where, pulled. I mean, sign from Jerry Pond, I believe, was pulled from youth programming this fall, so there's some things that looking through this budget, as the manager has just explained, where we have some things that come up, like that's not necessarily like a new piece of equipment that we need. It's more so a general maintenance thing. Some benches need some repair, or for instance, we have some leaks now in some of the skylights that have since been repaired, but which are no longer repairable. Those are some of the items that we're like, oh, well, this wasn't necessarily planned for, but this has sprung up and we need a couple $100s to make do with it. And the vehicle is not too much. Inspection, oil filter, if we need windshield wipers, fluid, those kind of things that are more appropriate under like a vehicle maintenance rather than pulling it from hardware or equipment replace and repair, those kind of things.
Thank you for your explanation.
Any other questions on the?
Yeah, Council McLaughlin.
I should have asked this question maybe when Cody was up here, but I just noticed the fertilizer and seed line is down 2,000. I know that was a big thing that we've worked together with the school to make sure that the fields are properly seeded and maintained, and I just want to make sure that cutting that doesn't affect keeping the field where they should be.
So just the only portion of that, fertilizer is one of the biggest expenses when it comes to maintenance of fields. And in looking at the schedule we had with Green Thumb, we had a late October fertilizer application for around $2,000, which is a bit late in our season for our climate. So that was just something that, it's been utilized, but something we have to be wary of if you do late applications with high fertilizer and it's not needed, it can make the soil too hot, and that can actually impact the field negatively. So we're gonna try this out and see how it goes, and then maybe we need to adjust later, but I think for right now, it was an appropriate place to pull so we could help put in some other places that we needed.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, speaking to, what I mentioned earlier, he really puts serious into this. That is my point. Anything else with the rec department?
Not unless Councilor Pelletier, which I can't see. You tell me if he says it.
If he puts his hand up, and
You'll know it.
screen on, it'll change this. where the
Okay.
top is moving.
Very good.
Um,
Then we can move on.
Okay. We are moving to page 52. Department 1009, that is the snow sled and ATV program. We're looking at increasing the local match for this program by $10,000. It has been flat at around 15,000 for quite some time. We all know this work gets more and more expensive every year, and we are intending to help offset some of those costs. The clubs that maintain the trails and the bridges and infrastructure in and around our community. Total suggested increase here is $16,000. Total department budget is $149,500. Any questions on that?
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say to help offset the clubs? The works that the clubs do?
Yeah, so
Thank
the ATV or the snow sled program, they receive grant funding from the state. And then they have expenses and then we match some local to add to that funding. Cody knows it is.
Just a note, it was an increase of 10,000 for a total of 25,000, unless I misheard the 16.
16 is the increase in the entire department.
Budget. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I understand where the grant match comes from. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly when.
Oh, yes. Yeah, when they are, replacing bridges or doing trail maintenance and that sort of thing. I need to run the equipment. A lot of that stuff has increased significantly over the years. Local funding has suggested increase for this year. And I did provide, Cody provided, I handed those
Right.
line graphs that explain the state funding, the local funding, and how they.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah,
Color.
yeah.
All right. I suppose we can move forward.
We can.
But page 58, Department 1300. That is our capital improvement budget. I'll say some numbers and then I'll change document here so you can see what we're looking at. We are expecting to make 2 purchases in this budget this year. We really need to replace our street sweeper. It's not even on its last leg. It doesn't have leg anymore. And it needs to be replaced. And then we are looking to purchase some new extraction tools for the fire department. The ones that are currently owned are very antiquated and no longer really suitable for service. And then we always have this capital reserve line in here, $10,000. And what that houses is the, if the price on, estimate changes for something, if the shipping changes, if there are other capital related items that pop up throughout the year, that kind of covers those unexpected additional costs. So let me show you. I did provide the council with actual pictures of this
You did.
equipment.
You did, I
It's
saw.
not in this document here, but so these tools by Genesis offered to us. We did compare several quotes from different companies. This was not only the best price, but it includes so that cutter line, the second item down, that's actually a product that goes beyond road vehicles and can actually cut through, like if there's a plane crash at our airport, that can actually get through the material for an airplane and help save lives that way. So what we are looking for is spreader tool, the cutting blades, a ramrod, combination tool, and those all come with Milwaukee batteries and chargers. It's a very great deal comparatively to what we researched other companies. Mr. Council Bragg.
Council Bragdon, yes, sorry.
Thank you. Now, this is a
I'm
rich question because technology changes all the time, but what's the lifespan on these?
I will I will yield to the fire chief to more about that.
So extrication tools right now,
Oh, you just turned it on.
Mm.
There you go.
extrication tools right now with the being battery operated, we're looking at roughly 20 years. Life expectancy. The cool thing is with this set of tools here is this uses the regular Milwaukee battery that you can buy at your local hardware store. So we can go and buy them. And it's at a lower cost compared to the other tools that we price, which was brand specific. So other brands, we're talking like a $1,200, $1,400 battery. And you can only use that battery. This we can use a DeWalt battery that we buy at a local hardware store. And keeps the tools running. As the manager mentioned, I did quite a bit of research with this. With us, looking at the future of the airport, this is the only tool that will take care of any aircraft incidents as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And, I'll just mention that it was a little over $5,000 less for this package than a comparable package that we had quoted from another company that didn't include, cutter to that ability. So we were actually really impressed with this.
Any other questions from the council?
Can you just speak to the state of the current equipment and recent needs for those pieces of equipment?
Yeah, so the current set of tools that we have, they're older aging set. We had to get them serviced last year, which was a huge increase in normal repairs. A lot of it had to be replaced all the way down to the couplings, hydraulic hoses, the pump had to be serviced. Some of these parts are no longer to be able to get from the company, they're an eBay item. So in the future, if we had to replace parts, there's gonna have to be, shopping around on eBay. We've currently, since I've been here, we've used extrication tools at least a half a dozen times. We had those 3 accidents last year with the fatalities. We used our extrication tools there. We've had a couple local incidents in town as well as some mutual aid calls, so it is, you know, a tool that we're in need of, so. Right now, currently, if we do use, our jaws, we're requesting another set of jaws, either at East Millinock or the next closest department, you know. It could be Brownville or up at that end of our coverage area, because we're not in a place, you know, to have extrication tools go down without having another set on hand. So, you know, with the newer set, we won't have that worry.
Any other
Thank you.
questions about this request?
I think that's it. Thank you very much. Good explanation. Yeah, helpful.
I will move on to the other item for this year, and then I'll do a brief overview of 5-year expectation. So in our capital budget for this year, we have a street sweeper, and the amount in our budget is for the first of 5 payments. What we would do is finance this over 5 years, and we would own it, and the life expectancy, I think probably pretty simple, 20-25 years, 20 years or so. The one we have far beyond.
Mhm.
So this is a Starfire S4C. Pretty handsome piece of equipment there. Fully operational. It has all of these wonderful features. And the two greatest things are, one, the price, because it was quite competitive compared to what we expected. Piece of equipment like this. The other piece of that is that they have one available now, which is, you know, very hard to come by. This. So doing this would this one doesn't have the payment breakdown. So it's about $57,000 a year for 5 years. $56,975 for 5 years of payments. And you know, a brand new piece of equipment like that would certainly benefit the department and the town as a whole. With the amount of sand and dirt, ice that goes
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
and the lack of ability for our current street sweeper to actually clean it up well in the spring, this would make a huge difference for the overall look and feel of the town. Mention big or like motorcycle, and that sort of they. Does anybody have any questions on that item specifically?
Not seeing any questions.
All right. So I have the 5-year tentative
Mhm.
capital plan up. I've shared this with you all. So we have, you know, obviously this is a tentative plan, but it identifies needs that are expected over the next few years. Whether or not we commit to any of these is entirely based on, you know, financial standings and whether or not, you know, council want to make those investments. So within the fire and ambulance department, you know, we have the extraction tools in there for this year. And then moving along year by year, you know, there's It'll be time for a motor replacement, consideration of the side-by-side replacement. And then, ambulance, heart monitors, the chief's truck, which is showing some serious signs of wear. All things that we will consider over the years. Within Public Works, we do have a pressure washer in there for this year, but recently we've identified other funding sources, feel that we can do that out of this capital budget. The street sweepers in there at the total value, but that would be spread over years. We are looking a little more at these overhead doors and do there. And then over the next several years, you'll see, trash trailer refurbishment. Every so many years, we have to replace some plow truck. And, lawnmower. So this is what we're expecting. And, once we get down here, we have recreation and airport related purchases or work that needs to be done. In this document, there is a pool repair that we it's not worked into our budget because we've identified other funding to absorb that. But, in the next year, we need to do some repair on the grates and the deck around the pool. Is showing some wear and come through there, so we'll want to get that taken care of. Speaking with Cody, we've identified a necessity for a snowmobile to be had over there for winter use between the complex and the Etow area. And there's a very strong need for a lodge over there for some point, and some other paving there. Anybody have any questions? This year?
I don't have a question on the 5-year document. I just we went back to the current budget projection, that number of 132,000 that's just the one payment on the street sweeper and the fire department material. Tell me what's in that 132. You would just
The
suggest
extraction tools, the first payment on the street sweeper, and a $10,000 reserve for
Got it.
incidental related.
Okay. Councilman Rollin, did you have a follow-up question?
Nope.
No, okay. All right.
Sorry.
I just, thank you. Thank you.
Moving.
Oh, moving on. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other
questions
questions?
on capital items?
I don't see any.
Fantastic.
Moving right along.
That means we get to jump into our other biggest piece of it. That would be fire department, which we need to find.
All right. Page 18.
Page 18, awesome. Great. So, fire department expense budget. I'm actually really proud of Chief Cody on this budget. The first draft that came, I said, nope, try again. and he did great job. We had some good conversation, strategic conversation, and he came back and we have made very little suggested change since that. So the increase for the fire department in this budget is minimal. It is $4,339. The total department budget, $101,558.
Any questions? Seeing none?
Seeing none.
None, yep.
The ambulance department is next. This, so there's a couple of things here that created another small increase. There is a need to purchase some new or replace some new mandatory supplies and tools that need to be on hand and in the ambulances. And then we've actually, in this budget, we've added common expense within municipal budget that is medical director stipend for Dr. Turnquest. This guy's awesome. He does an incredible job working with John, working with our department. And, as a form of appreciation, we're planning to stipend. And then, thanks to Bev's good work, we are expecting a pretty significant decrease in workers' compensation through that department. We're looking at a total increase of $6,266. Total department budget of $249,740.
Councilor Bragdon?
Yes, how's our staffing situation? I noticed that we increased for time again to $90,000. Just curious, the expectation is to see that go up again.
We currently have just one open position due to a recent retirement. We expect to get that advertised and filled in the near future. We had, approaching the retirement of that employee, we were onboarding two brand new employees at the same time. So we wanted to get them in and situated before we did that one. I expect to be staffed pretty near future, as well as with some new paid call.
So hearing that, I'm just curious of why there's an increase of $20,000 for overtime. We're expected to staff. I'm just
Sure. So this budget is reflective of the new pay rates for that department, for that union, the pay step increases and the percentage of living increase.
okay.
So that's really a combination of.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions within the ambulance budget?
I don't see any.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and
Mhm.
move into the fire and ambulance general budget. This one has the biggest expected increase of the three that Chief Cody is the head of. It is mostly reflective of, payroll related items, the new union contract, and those percentages and step increases, even with a decrease of $35,000 in the workers' compensation line. It's a nearly $20,000 increase in that little insurance line, which has been a real bugger throughout a lot of this budget. But that all works out to an overall increase of $63,325. and a department total of $1,098,131. Any brain busters on this one? I hear and see none.
It's here and see none either.
All right. So that closes out all of our expense budget for FY26. We will make sure that those documents are prepared in their final form for a special hearing. And now we'll go on to revenue. We will end the evening on revenue, where we actually make money. Not in a way of profit, but in a way of
Right.
offsetting the cost of services we provide. So we're gonna start on page 1, Department 0101, General Government. We are seeing here some of those impacts I had mentioned in our earlier overviews. Main state revenue sharing has dropped some. You know, I'm not as worried about that for this year, but there are some things happening at the federal and state level that make me concerned about that in future budget. But for now, this is what we have been told we're going to receive, and that in the last few years has actually performed really well and tracked better than expected, but we don't do rely on anything higher than what is what we are told we will receive. We're seeing some depreciation in Betty line, business equipment tax exempt line, that is. And you know, the use of assigned fund balance in this budget. That fluctuates over the years depending on the need that budget, and we're looking at a total department budget there. Revenues totaling $2,805,524. If we move on to page 2, to the town clerk's department, the only real noticeable increase here is what we had discussed when we were doing wastewater expenses. This is what we will be charging the wastewater department to do their administrative work around billing and record keeping. So that is increasing in revenue by $11,100. The department total will be, is expected to be $983,450. We can continue. Assessing is a department that we are expecting some decreases in around veterans reimbursement, some of the tree growth, and the homesteading. So, again, these are best guesses. All revenue really is when it comes to a municipal budget. But we are safely expecting a decrease of about $176,000, which brings that department total to $579,000. gonna go to the municipal bill. You'll notice that has a decrease of $25,000. If you remember, last year's budget had an additional $25,000 in it. That was an expected contribution from the court toward the elevator modernization. As you know, they chose to get that contribution to the project after all. So we have removed that from this year's budget. And that brought the budget back down to a more normal sense. It's really reflective of the new court rent, the satellite system space from. So total revenue for the municipal building is expected at $37,740. We will proceed on to planning and code department at page 7, 014. Between the steady presence of a really good code enforcement officer, the convenience of the online permitting and some other increases in projects happening around the town, coupled with what we think is a conservative expectation around the short-term rental ordinance and registration fees. We base that line of, a goal of 50 of those permits out of the 70-ish that are known at the time. So we are expecting that department to increase the revenue by $8,757. So the total expected revenue of $15,000. Questions on
None.
that? Wonderful. The economic development revenue budget, page 8. This one is pass-through funding. This is mostly. So the Cat TV, the money that we received from Beeline onto them, and then the loan payments that our Katad makes down to cover those debts on our expense budget. So this revenue sitting on $112,445. That there.
So,
That moves us over to the fire department. In this draft, the fire department revenue is what? That being said, Chief Cody and I have a meeting next week with the Unorganized Territories Administration to reconsider our contract for services for them. What we agreed on last year was a 1-year agreement at an increased rate while we continued to collect digital data rather than, the older paper files, so that we could better state our case for the pretty big increase that we need to cover those costs, so that it's not put on the taxpayers of our community rather than county. So there's a chance that this revenue could increase If that's agreed upon before, the adoption or looking more likely before the adoption, we may adjust that, which would offset our tax raise even more. If not, then we will see that revenue and beyond here would be automatically fall later into our unassigned fund. Yeah.
Mr. Manager, I do have a question. Under the, it looks like it's Piscataquis County Fire Stipend. 2024 actual was 2,500, but the budgeted this year is back down to 2,000. Is there a reason that it wasn't 2,500 again this year? Actual.
Yeah, so that was odd. But the actual contract is based. I'm sorry, I don't have. a
Yeah, that's all
better
right. It
answer
just,
for you,
yeah,
But
not a misprint. It's just the way it is. Got it.
No,
Got
that's
it.
how it worked out.
Okay.
So we're expecting, at this point, flat budget of $10,000 there. And then moving into the ambulance budget on the next page. This one has a slight increase of about $1,500. When we look at that miscellaneous revenue line, that is one that has not been expected in budget over the years. You can see that our 25 balance, the budget was, we had 0 in there. We've received 1,500 in the 2 prior years, and then this year that exceeded the $0 expectation. So we feel pretty safe that we'll back around $1,500, that in there. The major contributor to this is for ambulance billing. That's about 350,000. The total expected revenue here is 379,070. Any question?
Yeah,
Council Pelletier.
in the ambulance billing line, our year to date is $113 and a budget of 350,000. Does that scare you at all?
Yeah, no, that is that's not true to the revenue we've actually received from there. That is a extensive list of manual entries that the treasurer will need to enter before the end of the fiscal year to balance the budget.
So that's not actual
That is
2025.
not-
Okay.
Correct, that's not actual rev. It's much higher.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. No other questions?
Right. That brings us to the community services department. Now there are other entries that need to happen in this.
Okay.
It has brought in more than 30 bucks. It is expected to offset, or continue to offset cost. Was only 400 bucks thing in the expense budget. We've never expected to get rich over these, but we did put $100 in here, thinking that's a pretty safe bet. Around the EV charger use, we do see that pick up some. So I'm gonna keep moving.
Keep moving on.
Fringe benefits is next on page 16. Expectation there is $1,800. And if we move into the Public Works Administration, I'm gonna change my window that's open. This is the updated revenue document for Public Works Administration that shows the changes From Budget Workshop 1. Uh, So this is these are the funds that the wastewater department will be contributing to the works department operation. Flusher truck. That consumes about 80% or so of the additional employee will be dedicated truck flushing lines throughout the summer for DEP. The revenue for that department is expected at $60,075. Any questions there?
I'm not seeing any.
Oh. Revenue, okay. We're going to Public Works, Roads and Construction next, page 19. This is our LRAP program that comes from the state. I think this is pretty safe bet. I really expect that to be higher. It has come in higher than expected the last few years, and if we look at the trend, you know, there's a pretty good chance that's going to be higher than 50, but not knowing what that number is at this point, we put 50 in there. And we should know that number in the pretty near future. It's usually around this time of year where they give us that. Right. So $50,000 for that. When we go to the transfer side on page 21, this has been adjusted with our new contracts with the unorganized territories. The county usage fee has been adjusted. That is now, stickers for the unorganized territories are now the same cost as our local community members, which is a move in the right direction. In theory, that should double the revenue on that line. However, it has been tracking lower than expected, and the new sticker price is still pretty new. So we feel that FY26 will be a good year to learn from, you know, what will happen in that department and get a better grasp of that line for future years. So right now, that department is showing a decrease of about $9,500 in revenue for a total of $112,978. The next department on the list is General Assistant, page 29. This expected revenue is $14,000. You know, this is a 70% reimbursement of what is spent. So, you know, it'll vary depending on what is actually used out of this program. But for what we put in for expenses, this is what we would get spent in full. When we go to the cemeteries, right, on page 31, we feel pretty safe about increasing that $2,500, given trends in recent years, and, you know, unfortunate as it is, people continue to pass on at increasing numbers. So the expected revenue from that $22,500.
Any questions? No questions
All right.
on that department, yeah.
Sunset ATV program, this is the pass-through funding for those grants that are moved on to the snowmobile and ATV clubs. Expecting that revenue to be $127,100. Hoping you better hand raise.
Did you have anything?
Okay.
Okay.
Really looking for anything at this.
I know,
Any
right? Yeah,
sign
this
of
is
life
more.
on
We're
that
here,
side
yeah.
of the dais.
I can.
Okay, so from there we go to airport business. That's page 35. So this covers the airport business expense
Mhm.
budget, plus the profit margin on, items sold, fuel sold, and then lease. So this is increasing a bit. I honestly think that this will come in quite a bit higher. But, again, we're trying to be safe and not overstating our revenue because that really isn't good. So part of the hangar rent increase for revenue is related to the new clientele we have inherited from
Mhm.
the West Branch aviation lease. These were people who subleased space from them, pay us directly. So that had increased expected revenue there. We're looking at $114,800.
Yes, we have a question. Oh,
Two?
was it Councilor Demay first?
Go ahead.
Councilor Bragg.
Curious what's going on with the sale.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Same question?
I was hesitant to ask about fuel sales, but go ahead.
That's
Yeah.
also manual, okay.
That's just some clerical catch-up work that needs to be entered in.
Get nervous whenever I ask an airport question.
I like the coffee sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
gonna
safe.
get better.
Oh, really?
All
Oh, yeah, it's gonna get even better.
right.
Yeah, Jeff's very proud of his coffee sales over there, like a full-on Dunkin'. Um, any any other
Any other
questions there?
questions, or does that take care of it?
Not really, but, okay.
Is there something you need clarified, Councilor Dumay? No.
All right, we're gonna go forward. Holiday observation and events. There's a pretty good chance someone's gonna donate to this cause. We put $500 in there. I'd love to put $500. We put $500 in there. We tend to get some donation throughout the year towards
Okay.
those efforts. That's a pretty safe bet. Here. If we move past page 43 and go to couple additional documents on the LINZAP package, this is page showing as page 1, CDBG investment interest. So with the CDBG funds that are held by the town, this is basically the expected interest that we'll get from those sitting. $1,549. And then one more to note would be, what we have in our capital reserves holding accounts, we're expecting to make $500. That. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier in the process, Beverly and I putting some plans together for a new investment policy to present to the council and then approaching the CDAR investment accounts that are specific to municipal investments to add to revenue streams. And over the next year, we expect to isolate some of that, some of the cash flow funding in there for short periods of time to start trying that program out. You know, if all goes well, we could 20 we choose to do throughout the year. Doing it. But this anticipated revenue budget had total expectation of $5,428,916.
Any council questions, comments?
Wow,
See none, and that
that sure
concludes,
was a pleasure.
that was the,
I will see you all next week. And then we'll look forward to the special hearing.
so we'll have updated financial documents, the final ones. Prior to that. So this workshop is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
See you, Louis.